Welcome to the Warrior Project podcast. I am your host, Brianna, and I'm just gonna get straight into this. So buckle the fuck up, let's go. Today's episode is gonna be like an about me, about the Warrior Project, why I started it, and about my fitness journey. All the good stuff, all the tea. My goal is to make fitness as accessible as possible, so that's why I host my $8 fitness challenges every month. I try to post as much free information as I can on Instagram and TikTok, and I figured what better way to deliver long form content than through a fucking podcast. So I'm really excited to do this, and I wanted to start this episode off by kind of introducing myself, introducing you to what the Warrior Project is, who we are, and I thought there was gonna be a comma and like a third thing there, but that's really it. That's what this episode is gonna be. So like I said, my name is Brie. I started my fitness journey like 6.5, almost 7 years ago. In October, it will be 7 years. And it's been a long journey. Like there has been a lot that's gone down. And I think I started my journey in a way that a lot of other women do. And that was lose as much weight as possible, as quickly as I can, and stay as thin as I can. When I was 17, I had a tonsillectomy. And you might be thinking, what the fuck does this have to do with anything? And it is everything. So after this tonsillectomy, I was in horrible, excruciating pain, and I could not eat for over 2 weeks. I think it was like 16 or 17 days before I could eat something solid. Like I was living on sorbet and juice. Like if we're being really real, I maybe was eating a couple hundred calories per day because I couldn't eat. And that led to me losing 17 pounds. And as it was, I was not overweight. So it got to the point where you could literally see my bones. My rib cage was showing, my spine was showing, like my arms were stick thin. And I looked at myself in the mirror and I said, fuck yeah, keep the bones coming. So as soon as I was cleared by my doctor, I started going to the gym every single day, doing like 60 minutes of cardio, and then I would get on the floor and do hundreds of crunches. And when I say hundreds of crunches, I'm not exaggerating. Like 300, 400, 500 crunches. It would take me like an hour to finish this core workout that I thought was gonna do something for me. At this point, I was a senior in high school, and I've never really been one for breakfast as soon as I wake up in the morning. So you know how it is in high school. You wake up, barely enough time to brush your hair, brush your teeth, and you leave. So that's kind of what my mornings looked like. I didn't eat breakfast, and for lunch I would either buy a salad from the cafeteria and find like the lowest calorie salad dressing that I could, or the night before I would make myself a salad at home for lunch, which consisted of maybe some cheese, some spinach, a few cherry tomatoes, and shredded chicken. I would come home, probably have a little snack or something, and head straight to the gym. And I would be there for 2-3 hours doing my cardio and my core workouts. Then I would come home, trigger warning for EDs. I would come home, eat whatever my mom made for dinner, and probably throw it up afterwards. So needless to say, I was not in a good headspace at all. I really was just in the mindset of skinny bitch. That is all that matters. I want to be a skinny bitch. And I'm really lucky because I did not stay in this cycle for very long, definitely longer than I should have. It lasted probably a few months, and that's when I met a few guys at my gym. They taught me how to use the weights. I remember one of them taught me how to use the bench press. Another one taught me how to use the squat rack, and I was there struggling with just the bar, no weight on it, and I felt like a pussy. I felt like a little bitch, and I saw them pushing all of this weight, and I was like, I want to be like you. I want to do that shit. So even though I felt like the weakest little weakling in the weight section, I pushed through it. I loaded as much weight as I could. A lot of the times that meant I was ego lifting. Don't ego lift. But that's what I was doing. I wanted to be like the strong motherfuckers in the gym. And I learned very quickly that if I wanted to be the strongest person in the gym, I needed to eat like the strongest person in the gym. So that's kind of where that cycle ended, because I was introduced to this world of weightlifting, and I learned very quickly that you have to eat. You have to fuel your lifts and fuel your body. That's how the muscles grow. That's how we get stronger. And like, don't get me wrong. There's nothing wrong with only lifting the bar or not even being able to lift the bar. That is absolutely normal. But at the time, I didn't know that. I didn't realize that. So I just was like, holy shit, look at these motherfuckers lifting all this weight. And then I'm over here like that episode of SpongeBob where he puts the fucking bunnies on the bar and can barely lift it. It was weightlifting that really saved me, that pulled me out of that super unhealthy cycle where I was just starving myself and not allowing myself to like enjoy life, because we all know how enjoyable food is. It's a huge part of our life. I was fucking hungry all the time. You can't enjoy life if you're fucking hungry all the time. Then I met my ex-boyfriend who I was with for 6.5 years, and he introduced me to the world of bodybuilding. I fell in love with that shit. And I got very lucky again in the sense that not only did I meet him, who was super into bodybuilding and taught me so much about it, but he introduced me to his friends who became my closest friends, and they both were bodybuilders. So it was just this little group of us who just were, you know, getting out of our senior year of high school, graduating. We didn't have anything to do with our time, and we just lifted and we ate pizza, and like we would order like Papa John's at least twice a week, like 2 to 3 large pizzas, 2 or 3 cinnamon pull-aparts, and finish it. I was in a place where I was eating as much as I possibly could to gain as much weight and muscle as I possibly could. So like I said, we would lift, we would eat, we would sleep. That was our routine. We were kids, you know what I mean? Like there was no other responsibilities for us, and it was the life. And I fell in love with bodybuilding. So fast forward like a year, I decided that I no longer wanted to eat meat. And this was a very scary decision for me because you hear all the time, like, you need protein, you need protein, you need protein. And I was like, how the fuck am I gonna get my protein? Like, what am I gonna do? Like, freaking out. It was very frantic inside of this noggin of mine. And I ended up watching What the Health and Cowspiracy. I watched them back to back in one night. And I have not eaten meat since that night. I was vegan for about 3 years, and then I decided to do vegetarian. And now I am pescatarian. I don't see that changing. I don't see myself ever eating meat again. But this is where I'm at in my journey. Seasons change, people change. You never know. You know what I mean? So I ended up going vegan. I loved it. I have some autoimmune disorders that basically got cleared up after I started eating vegan. And I definitely attribute my diet to it. This is not me prescribing a vegan diet to you. If you have any health issues, do your own research, consult with your own doctors, but it is what works for me. So I stuck with it for a very long time. And at this point, I decided that I wanted to get into power building. So not only was I trying to build the muscle on my body, but I was getting back into really building that strength. So I started incorporating the big 3, the squats, the deadlifts, the bench press, and going heavy with them. Like I became obsessed, like ego lifting every day obsessed. And unfortunately, we're gonna fast forward another year because I ended up hurting my back. And I did end up learning some very important lessons through this, because not only was I ego lifting, but I was not warming up before my lifts. I was not recovering afterwards. I was doing absolutely no form of stretching or mobility. Like, I was just lifting. And mind you, I loved it at the time until it came back to bite me in the fucking ass. I was put out of the gym for a solid few months. Like, I could not lift at all for a few weeks, and then I would lift here and there, do like arm days, but there was no way in hell you were gonna catch me doing like a lower body day or deadlifting or anything that really involved my lower back in any way, shape, or form, because I literally couldn't. I remember one day, because during that year that we fast forwarded through, I became a personal trainer. I was working at UFit at the time, and I remember training one of my clients, and I went to go pick up an 8-pound dumbbell for her. 8 pounds. That's it. Mind you, at the time I was deadlifting, 250 pounds, squatting 250 pounds. But I went to lift this 8-pound dumbbell, and I thought my back was going to give out. I walked back over to her and I said, listen, we're not going to be able to finish this session. I am in too much pain. So I went home, I started stretching, and I started stretching my lower back, which was probably the worst decision that I could have made. But I didn't know what was wrong. I couldn't figure it out. And like I said, months go by, I'm still in excruciating pain. I can't do any heavy lifting, and my muscle is deteriorating. My muscle and my strength are regressing, and I'm falling into this like negative headspace because bodybuilding, powerlifting, it all became my life. And now that was all taken away from me in that moment because I could no longer do these things that I love doing. So I ended up going to a chiropractor, I went to an orthopedic surgeon, I went to just like, my primary care doctor, and the last thing that I ended up doing to kind of try to figure out what the heck was going on was a physical therapist. And this man, along with a strength and conditioning coach at FAU, changed my life. Together we figured out that my problem was not really my back. My back was just kind of collateral damage. I actually had incredibly tight and immobile hip flexors to the point that it was pulling my pelvis down and forward and putting all of that pressure on my lumbar. So it was taking the brunt of it. Like, all of that pain was coming because I had no mobility in my hips. How fucking crazy is that? So I did the exercises that the physical therapist taught me and some exercises that the strength and conditioning coach taught me. And within a week after starting those exercises, I was able to deadlift again. I cannot tell you how happy I was. Anyways, we got through the back injury. I still deal with it here and there sometimes if I, don't warm up enough or I'm not bracing correctly during a lift. It happens, and then I'll be out of commission for like a week, and then we get back into it. Thankfully, we did figure out the problem and get to the bottom of it, so if anything does happen, I'm always able to snap right back out of it. Like I said, at this point, I'm a personal trainer. I'm working at UFIT, and COVID hits. So I was laid off from my job, and I started posting more on TikTok and Instagram and stuff like that, and it really became my new career. Like, I loved it. I loved social media. And once I started working again after the pandemic or after lockdown was over, I just did not vibe with what was going on at the gym. I was like the only one working out in my mask. Clients were, spitting, sweating, like doing their workouts. And of course, like, I'm not going to blame them for putting all of their effort into it. But, none of them were wearing their masks. And I have autoimmune stuff. My mom has asthma. My brother's got some autoimmune stuff. And I lived with them at the time. So it really scared me to be going to the gym and coming into close proximity with all of these people and not knowing what I was going to bring home, not knowing if I was going to be the reason that something happened to one of my family members. And that really fucking stressed me out. So I quit my job at UFIT, and I decided that I wanted to start doing more online one-on-one training. So that's what I started doing. I started taking clients online. I had done this a little bit previously, but my main source of income was through in-person personal training. And I made the switch. I started creating some workout programs that you could purchase from my website, like just promoting a little bit on Instagram. I did some 4-week programs, some 8-week programs, and I was not feeling fulfilled. I felt like I could do more. I felt like I could reach more people because I had this huge platform that I was like lucky enough to like stumble across, you know what I mean? And I felt like I could do more. So instead of continuing on with the one-on-one training, I decided to expand it to a more group-based training style. And the first thing that I ever did was the Spooky Booty October 2020 30-day finish challenge. And this was kind of just like a test. Like, I thought that my programs were going to be that new source of income, that new career for me. I was going to be able to put out new programs every few months, help new people through those. And since it was a program that was downloadable through my website, I would be able to help so many more people at once, And I did this 30-day fitness challenge. It was supposed to be a one-off challenge. And I ended up signing up, I think like 300 or 400 people during our first challenge, which was insane. Like literally insane. I was shook as fuck. And at the end of the month, I had no plans to do a November challenge, no plans to continue doing this in the future. And everybody in the group chat was like, hey, like, are we doing a November challenge? And I said, fuck yeah, like let's do it. And that's where it just kind of snowballed. Like it was the October challenge, the November challenge. I ended up not doing a December challenge just to kind of see if there would be anybody missing it or like, what would happen. And everybody missed it. They were like, girl, bring the fucking challenges back. And I was like, say less. So January, we restarted the challenges. January 21, we did New Year, New Me. And we have done a challenge every single month since then. And I love it so much. Like these challenges are so fun. They have a theme every month, so I get to play dress up every month, take these pictures, do our giveaways. And now our Facebook group is filled with 12,000 people that like are all friends. Like it's like, I don't know how to explain it, because you get into this Facebook group and you can post about your problems, post about your exercise form and ask for advice, or post your progress pictures and say, hey, like, do you think I'm making progress? Like what's going on? Like what can I do differently? And then you've got all these girly girls in the comment sections just hyping you up, giving you your advice, like boosting you. And it's a great environment. So we went from that original group chat of a few hundred girls to this Facebook group of thousands of people who are just trying to better themselves. So the environment became very like safe. It became a place where you can go to just become a better version of yourself, but without judgment. And that was something that was really important to me going into this. I wanted the Warrior Project to be a safe space where you can ask your questions, share your mistakes and share your failures so that you can get advice from other members, like a place for you to learn new things and access information and access fitness. Because let's be so fucking real. I would do these personal training assessments at UFit, and before that I worked at LA Fitness for a few months, and I would feel guilty asking new clients to sign up with me for personal training, because it's hundreds of dollars a month to only work together for, 2-3 days a week for 30 minutes. And there's nothing wrong with in-person personal training. Like for the people who can afford it and the people who can have access to it, it's amazing. Like it's an amazing tool. But I felt guilty. And that's why I started the challenge at $5 per month, and now it's only $8.95 per month. And I can feel confident, sharing that with people at that price point, because I feel like my goal has been to make fitness and wellness as accessible as possible. And if you've been here, if you've been with me from the beginning or even in the past year, you know how much we've grown, expanded, and upgraded. And that's the goal, to keep the price point at $8.95 and continue to provide more and more fucking value through the challenge, so you literally don't need to go anywhere else. All of the tools that you need will be in TWP. So now I am no longer really a bodybuilder. I definitely still practice bodybuilding in some respects. Like I love the structure and the routine of it. I definitely do cuts and I do bulks, but I would say I'm more well-rounded in my training now. I strength train 4 to 5 times a week. I now do yoga 2 to 3 times per week. I like to go for long walks and do more cardio. And if there's a new type of exercise that I want to try, like a new form of exercise, whether it's Pilates or running or whatever my heart desires in that moment, I feel comfortable and confident moving forward with those things. Whereas when I was strictly doing bodybuilding or strictly doing powerlifting, I felt like I couldn't veer off that path. So to me, right now where I'm at in my journey, it's important to me to have that flexibility, because at the end of the day, my goal is to be fit and healthy, not to be a bodybuilder. And it used to be, and that changed, and that's okay. So with this podcast, I really just want to expand on the Warrior Project's mission, which is making fitness and wellness as accessible as possible. So there's going to be a lot of like fitness educational content on here, but I also want to do episodes where we're like sharing our embarrassing gym stories or like our successes inside or outside of the gym. So I'm gonna have a link in the show notes for you to submit any stories that you think would be fun to share, whether it's motivating or embarrassing or whatever the case is, because I want to show the people who are listening, the people who are watching, and really mostly the people who are feeling like anxious to go to the gym, that there are so many sides to this. And wherever you're at and whatever happens, it's okay. Like, we all have our own day one and we all have to start from scratch at some point. So you might as well do it now. So I think sharing our stories and, you know, trying to give you as much information as possible is going to be helpful, because then you feel more comfortable walking into the gym knowing that the people around you have probably been through the same exact thing. So there's no reason to be embarrassed or no reason to feel anxious walking into the gym, because we all had our day one. And I think that this podcast is really going to help showcase that. Now, with all of that being said, that is a wrap on episode 1. I really fucking appreciate if you sat through this episode. It would mean the world to me if you just took 2 seconds to write a review. And if you are interested in trying out our monthly challenges, we actually have the July challenge starting in 2 days. There will be a link down in the show notes to get your first month for free. So that code will apply at checkout. My motherly duties are calling. I know you can hear the cats meowing in the background. So like I said, thank you so much for watching, listening, wherever the heck you're consuming this content from. I will see you next time.